Wait.
Wait, yes, shit.
Well, you guys have it. Clink.
All right, here we go.
Oh, that is the champagne and beers.
God, I missed it. That's good.
So
That's a good growler.
we're all in what I assume is like very minor, because we're adults and grown and old. Minor recovery mode.
Yes.
After a particularly raucous live show.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. If you are a Patreon backer, you're going to hear it soon. If you're not, you will hear it eventually, because we'll release it on the regular feed eventually. But it was a very good time. So the fact that we're all here is a testament to our abilities to be slightly more adult than we used to be. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, because we didn't go to a fourth location.
Yeah. That's because we didn't, as Julie and I almost did.
Almost. So close.
Right on the precipice. We did not say, let's take this to Lincoln Karaoke.
When I texted you at like 10:30. Oh, when I texted Julie and Allison at 10:30, and they were like, "We're already gone." I was like, "That was smart of them."
Yeah. But it was a really
Yeah.
good time. Thank you to everybody who came out. We will be back at the fine Oasis in Rogers Park. However, we have two hangers on.
Hi. Hey.
They just never left. They've been following around behind Julie specifically because she's got a great ass.
Come play with us.
Oh, that's great. Good twin joke.
Yeah, really good.
Excellent fucking twin joke.
If you have heard our bonus episodes, have heard these two dulcet voices before. Say hello, Keenan and Scotty.
Hello, I'm Scotty. Hello, I'm Keenan.
If they sound alike, it's because they're cousins. Identical cousins. No, they're twins. They're twins. They're not cousins. That makes way more sense than being identical cousins. I never understood that.
I know.
You know, it's more implausible than Small Wonder, which is saying something because
robot
that's
girl.
about a robot girl.
Well, it could be like a stolen from the hospital situation.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't know that they're actually siblings.
And then at
raised
summer
as
camp,
cousins.
we were enemies turned friends.
Oh my God, there's so many twin plots.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And then we have to share the same bed. Ew. It's my favorite. It's my favorite show. In lieu of bit, there's that introduction and that thank you to everybody who came out yesterday because it was such a damn good time. And welcome to Outlander Drunkcast and Outlander. That wasn't awkward enough. Those are best when I am talking about something else and then it just like, welcome to Outlander Drunkcast and Outlander Podcast.
You explaining it kind of took it there.
Yeah.
So
Yay.
Like,
You did it.
you found a way.
Welcome to Outlander Drunkcast and Outlander Podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Julie.
That's Janine.
Hi.
These are our twin friends. I think the last time please.
Hi.
Again.
Hello again.
I think the last time that they were here, I identified them a bit more than they should perhaps be identified. So I'm trying real. If I say your last name at any point, punch me in the nose.
Oh, okay.
fine.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Well, okay, first of all, don't actually punch me in the nose. I forget that we just watched an episode in which two women beat the whole
Lady
shit out
Fight
of
Club.
them. So I want to specify that I was being facetious. Don't actually punch me in the nose.
Going for it.
But Scotty is a friend of ours from Julie and I's dark days in the theater world. Among many other things, she is no longer just a theater friend. Not that theater. Oh God, I'm talking about my ass. Not that theater friends aren't valuable friends, but she was
They're
a
not.
theater
It's
friend,
fine.
and now she's an everything friend. And Keenan is. I don't know if I mentioned this, but they're twins.
Oh my God.
It's like how in this season of The Bachelor, they just can't stop saying that Peter is a pilot. Anyway, he said, I said this in the live show yesterday, so apologies for saying it again, but I can't help myself. In the most recent episode of The Bachelor, he said with a straight face in front of a camera, knowing people would see him, he said, "My wife is in this hangar." And I just
It's a
can't.
real Ron Swanson's son. People can see you.
Yes. Exactly. Anyway, Patty, Keenan is a friend of ours because we met her through Scotty. She is also an excellent lingerie blogger.
Thank you.
And you can read her wonderful lingerie blog, which I affectionately think of as Chefs, but now. But it is Sweet Nothings. NYC.com?
Well done. Yes.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
I love that Keenan. Y'all know Keenan through me, but you are like real friends with Keenan now. It's not just.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's the best.
Yeah, that's
Y'all
really
are friends
true.
with Keenan on
you
your
and
own
I
now.
could have that falling out that we are destined for.
It's coming any day now.
Any day now, and I would still be friends with Keenan. Not true, because Keenan would be like, "No, I'm sorry, you wronged my sister."
Twin code.
Don't put me in the middle between two fires.
Nailed it.
Oh my God. So satisfying. So satisfying. Unlike the title of this episode, which is indeed Between Two Fires.
And then they say it twice in the episode.
Okay, we talked about this a little bit at the live show yesterday, but I just got to get it out there. Who let that get past and actually be the title? Because it's insulting. It hurts my feelings. It's like these people don't have any knowledge of Between Two Ferns and don't have any knowledge of the fact that that's what I'm going to call it from here on out. So anytime somebody says Between Two Fires today, I'm going to go Ferns.
Between two ferns.
So here we are, season 2 of episode 5. What the fuck?
I think it's a pretty great episode with a very bad title.
Yes, terrible title.
I don't
good
care if it was
episode.
in the book. I don't care if it was in the book. Somebody should have said, like, we should find a way to rephrase
You know what?
that.
It's they should have had like some kind of like 25 to 30-year-old somewhere in the writer's room that was like, can I YouTube something for you guys?
Just so you know.
Just so you
This
know.
is what's going to come to mind.
Everybody's going to say this. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to be like, Between Two.
I mean, for that one little bit that I saw, I was looking for Zach Galifianakis.
Although, you know what? The guy, the Spartacus, he had a kind of Galifianakis energy.
He did.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of it.
All he was missing was like a pair of Crocs, a tie-dye shirt, some big hair.
He wasn't like tired and bewildered enough for that Between Two Ferns.
Yeah.
Galifianakis energy.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one was weird because we had the actual cold open again. So do you think they're just going to stick
No, we
with
did not have a cold open.
the riot and the tarring and feathering was before?
was before the because previously on and then the tarring.
Yep.
Never
So
mind,
do you
you're
think
right.
they're going to start doing that now? Because they
Maybe.
did it the first
I mean,
episode
there
too.
have always been a few every season, but I wonder if it's shifting to people. They sort of shift. TV writers seem to shift formats when they get a little bit bored with one. So, like for a long time, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend had those amazing bits at the end, and then they cut them.
Right.
You know. So I miss them.
But it's Murtaugh's dudes straight up dragging dudes out of their homes
have to
and
say-
tarring and feathering them, setting us up to know that this is going to be a very violent
Yeah.
episode.
It was a blood and gore episode. The
was.
special effects people were having a time. Yeah.
It was genuinely shocking to realize Murtaugh was the one doing that, and like unappealing, but in a good, productive way. Moment of cognitive dissonance because I just. Never, even having read the book, and the regulators do tar and feather people in a town, and it is like a really jarring, upsetting thing for Jamie. Even knowing that, I didn't expect it to be Marta. It was really shocking.
And was it who was out of the twins? Forgive me, I confuse you. One of you said that when you were a kid and you were learning about stuff in history class, and they'd say tarred and feathered, you thought that was like a funny thing.
Like, oh, someone covered in feathers. Ha ha.
And then you see it, and you're like,
Oh, this is straight up murder.
terrible.
Oh.
So it was very violent and kind of surprising. And then we had the theme song. And if anybody was watching the live stream, I think that maybe this is my new favorite theme, because if people sing it every week while I'm watching it and do all the harmonies, I'm going to laugh my ass off. And then the title card this time is somebody making bread. Spoiler, that comes back. Spoiler, it's spoiled. Just, I know that was.
It's
I
one of my
reached.
very favorite book storylines for Claire, is Claire trying to make penicillin, as might have been evidenced by the live show yesterday.
Yeah. That was the first scene. That was the first doing. Oh, okay, I can't give it away.
It was intense. I do think that and we'll get to this when she actually starts making the bread. But I do think that there's something about it that's a little bit weird in the translation to television. Also, she absolutely in the book does not bake like 26 loaves of bread.
And
Just
put
to have
them in her
go bad.
restoration hardware bell jars.
Yes,
Yeah.
she does not.
That is
She
what-
it's all food scraps. It's all what she has Marcelly running errands for her. Anyway, that's the title card. It's a good title card.
Yeah, it was
We're
nice.
also going to briefly stop, just so you know. I don't want you to be alarmed, but you've been live streamed this whole time.
All of you.
You listening. Just kidding. We have been doing a live watch before every episode using Crowdcast, which is a feature of Patreon. And last week let it run until it ran out, basically. This week we're going to cut it off now. Sorry, guys. But if you want to see what it looks like when we're recording, you can go to Patreon and go into the Crowdcast from the day the episode aired, and you can see us all sitting around a table eating a surprisingly edible piece of chocolate cake. That's just me. Everybody else ate their cake first. And watching Janine do the video portion of our new feature, Janine's Corner, the Janine experience. I'm going to combine them. So I'm going to shut that off really quick. You guys go on without me.
Okay. So the episode opens with Brianna sitting under a tree. I think we do get some serious North Carolina porn, as we are wont to. And then she's sketching, and she looks a little disturbed by her sketching. And she's sketching kind of hard, like maybe there's a bead of sweat on her forehead. And we zoom in on the sketch, and it's Stephen Bonnet.
Boo.
So, yeah, boo is right. And she's trying to work some shit out with her sketches. So we see her kind of processing this trauma through her art. And it's not very long. Like, it's just a little kind of bit to... remind us that this is happening, and then all of a sudden there's a commotion, and we hear a wagon come clack, clack, clacking down the laneway, and it's the Farishes. Mrs. Farish is screaming. Her husband is dying, and she's like, please help, please help. So Claire, trundles him into the surgery, and we find out that his wife, thinking she was helping him, actually killed him with a combination of mercury poisoning and too many leeches.
Yep.
Ugh.
I would say that one leech is too many.
Oh, the good old days.
Oh, the good old days. I think I wrote that down. Did I? I wrote that down at some. Down here. So Claire is asking her questions about what she gave him, and then when she hears mercury, she goes, "There's nothing I can do."
I'm so
sorry. You killed your
nothing more
husband,
I can do,
but
babe.
she can't say that. So then he dies right there on the table. Everybody freaks
Very
out.
upsetting. And this is we're at minute 6.
It's setting us up.
It's very fast. It's a lot.
There is a lot of action in this episode. And so the poor guy dies on the table. Claire looks all sad, not as sad as the guy's wife, Avi.
So does Brianna.
Brianna's like,
shit,
oh, man.
Mercury man. Even I know that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Brianna's face falls too.
When she hears mercury, she just looks at Claire and she's like, 1969 knowledge.
Can I interject with a
respect.
quick question? Because
Yes.
we all assumed when we saw a slight man wrapped in a blanket so that we could not see his torso, we thought he was one of the tar and feather victims
did.
being brought up to the ridge. So can I just again ask a clarification question about geography and time and where were people getting tarred and feathered in relation to the ridge?
They were in Wilmington.
Wilmington, okay.
I don't know how far away it is, but this is daytime, and they were being tarred and feathered at night.
Good call. Thank you.
So it could have been the night before.
It probably couldn't. So Wilmington is some distance, not a
Okay,
crazy
so
distance,
not that far.
from
Farther than I
Jocasta's.
thought. Okay.
Jocasta's is like a multiple day trip.
Oh, okay. So it
they're
could not
like
have been.
in the backwoods.
Oh.
They're like, yeah.
Oh,
It's
that
a
helps.
it's a little bit of a, at least in the book, it's a bit
Yeah.
of a journey to get to Fraser's Ridge, and it's picturesque viewpoints
And
where
mist.
you get to pay a quarter to look through the spy glasses at the beautiful scenery.
And then our next scene is Jamie getting suited up to leave on his mission to try to find Murtaugh. And he's got a helper now. Helper with quotes around it. His name is Hamilton Knox, and he's a super douchebag. And he was obviously sent by Governor trying to spy on Jamie to make sure that Jamie was doing the job that he's supposed to do, which is find Murtaugh.
We were introduced to him in the last episode when Tryon told him to stay.
That's
so
right.
he watched the whole gathering and was like, this Scottish business, quite interesting with them.
Yeah, so he saw the whole layered thing, right? And there's a little bit of a pissing contest where they're going back and forth and being very witty about why he's there. And Jamie's like, "Are you here to keep tabs on me?" And he's like, I wouldn't say that. And Jamie's like, sure. Well, are you writing letters to Tryon? And dude's like, I don't know, maybe. Are you? And Jamie's like, should I put in a note about the affable lieutenant? Lieutenant got said again. Yes. Love it. Best shade. So we can see that a little sword match is getting, terrible choice of words. Coming up later.
I think the first part of that is a little bit more genial, right? Like Knox basically says, if I were writing letters, I would say that you're a natural leader and you command loyalty and you've managed to do remarkable things with your tract of land, blah, blah, blah. And they're bonding over all that, which is why he says the affable lieutenant or whatever. So they're bonding, and then fucking Knox lets drop like, I wonder if the governor will reward me with land when we hang and quarter Murta Fitzgibbon. And you're like, whoa. And Jamie's like, ugh. So it's like when you're having a conversation with someone who seems really nice and then they just say something incredibly racist out of nowhere where you're like, whoa.
Have you ever had a racist Lyft or Uber driver?
Yes.
And you get in the car and you're having a nice chat, and then all of a sudden it's like, I think women who get assaulted deserve it. And you're like, oh my God.
Oh my God, pull over on Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
Getting out and walking.
Yikes.
So we can see that he's playing nice at the beginning, but then all of a sudden that hammer drops. We can, a little peek behind the curtain, possibly a little overzealous much, Mr. Hamilton. And then Brianna comes back into the house for something and knocks on the on Claire's surgery door, which she has locked and drawn the curtains on. Like, don't fucking come in here. And Brianna goes in, and there's dude, mercury poisoning. What's his name? Ferris. I was going to say he has to stay home from school today.
Julie.
Ferris. I know. Come on.
Boo.
It's right there. Claire's basically laid him out like a frog in 9th grade. And Bree's like,
he's got rib spreaders in. It's so upsetting.
Yes. Bree is like, what the fuck? And Claire's like, shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. I just really need to perform autopsy so that I can learn about teach these people. Brianna's like, you're a witch now.
Yeah, it's a very good, interesting scene where Brianna is trying to be like, remember time travel? I don't know how no one has mentioned to you this over the course of multiple seasons, Mom. But you're terrible at this. Like, you're really bad at time traveling. And she's like, no, I'm not. And they have this little chat, and it really could have been summarized with Brianna just going, do you remember that time that you were almost burned at the stake for being a witch?
Somebody comes in this room right now. You will be burned at the stake.
Remember that? And then it happens again later, which is just, it's fucking everybody but Claire has a pretty keen idea of what this is going to look like to someone else.
Stop being a witch.
I just want to help these people.
I just want to help them. And then Brianna can't take it. And she leaves. And Claire, closes up her secret room with dead guy on the table and goes out on the front porch, and in maybe the best cut between two scenes, no pun intended, it goes to Marsley straight up butchering an entire deer out on a picnic table in front of the thing, and Claire goes, yeah, I like the cut of her jib.
It's a very cool little cut.
And then Allison was like, oh, I see what they're going to do, and got really excited, and that comes back later. But she looks at her, and then Marsley kind of looks at her, and they're both like, what's up?
Well, Marsley seems to be going, hey, shame about your patient. Excuse me. And then just rips a leg aside and pulls out a liver and throws it over her shoulder. She's like, I have a lot of empathy for you, and I'm not fucked up by bodies. Look at this. Hold on. Let me get my saw.
Yeah.
Let me just
good.
pull
Can
these
I hold
joints
this for
apart.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to make a stock with these bones? It's great. It's very intense.
Then we're out on the road with Jamie and his zealous partner. And they have this great conversation, which just really goes to show what an asshole Knox is. And they see this poor family on the side of the road, and Knox boop, flips him a coin like a terrible douchebag, and the guy spits at him. And then Knox has this whole monologue about how the world is so uncivilized, and it's so good that we have men like us who are the rule of law and order, and we're all barfing in the background. This guy sucks. And Jamie keeps low key trying to be well, what would it be like for you if this was you? Yeah. And trying to just kind of feel him out and see if he's got any leanings, empathy in general. Yes. And they kind of banter back and forth again. And you start to this actor who plays Knox, Lieutenant Knox, does this twice in this episode where you start to feel like maybe he's a normal guy.
Oh, I think it's more than twice.
And then he comes back with just burp. Women shouldn't have jobs.
He does it throughout, because in the first scene with Jamie when they're saddling up for their journey, well, you even see it in the previous episode when Jamie's calling his people to the laird. Knox is oh, look at this man. He's a leader. Ooh. And you're like, oh, this guy might be sympathetic to Jamie. And then in the very next scene, he's like, these people civilized, blah, blah, blah. And that shift back and forth keeps happening.
It happens a lot. And one time with deadly results.
I think at some point in one of these scenes, as we were watching it, I said out loud, "Oh my God, it's like being on Twitter," and it really is.
Oh, it's when we get into town. It's when we get into Wilmington.
Yeah, it's like engaging with somebody, making the assumption that they too are willing to like consider alternate points of view and exercise critical reasoning. And some of those some people that you engage with on Twitter just make it very clear that they're not interested in that. But sometimes it seems like they are, and then bam, I don't know where they just fucking hit you with like some nonsense fucking zero critical thinking, true believer bullshit, which is what's happening here, right? It's this is obviously an intelligent man with the power to be empathetic who at every fucking turn finds a way to reconcile actual facts and like the complexity of being a human with his own fucked up,
his own
like,
zealotry,
unquestioning, zealotous worldview. And it is extremely unsettling.
It's
and
very
very
unsettling.
relevant. It's
So realistic.
it felt like topical and of the moment in a way that, as much as I love the show, it usually does not. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's my fucking. I encounter that every day. Like every day on the internet, I encounter that.
That's stressful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That stresses me out.
Yeah. Between that and Claire having to fucking be like, it's not me, it's this man giving you this advice. I was like, oh, fuck, Jesus Christ.
So this is actually exactly in the show when you said that, because they ride into town and they can see that there's been a hubbub and something bad has happened here in Wilmington. And this is when Jamie does the sweet Captain Riker dismount off of his horse.
hands free. Yeah.
He's got
It's
his
like, it's right
rifle
up
in his
there.
hands and he just swings his leg over the horse's head, just jumps
And the tail on his coat kind of goes.
Yep.
You
His
know how
coat
Captain Riker
swirled
would
and
just swing his foot
Yeah,
around the
'cause
chair?
he's so fucking tall. He just walks over the chair.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It's good. It's like it's not quite as good just because of the way that it's shot as when Fergus dropped in front of the militia and we were all, like engaged. We were ready for it.
So Mr. Fanning is a little bit beat up here in town, and he's the guy that's going to give us all the exposition of what happened with the regulators the night before. Spoiler, they tarred and feathered some dudes. So they bring Knox and Jamie into this room, and they meet one of the guys who was tarred and feathered, and I can't remember if he was a judge or a magistrate or something. Some position of power.
Well, no, the judge ran away.
The judge got
Justice
away.
of the peace?
JOP
Yeah, maybe.
or like, it wasn't a tax collector, it was somebody above that. Yeah. And he's understandably surly, wrapped in a blanket, probably hurting real bad. And Jamie's like, one day you'll heal and your scars will show how brave you were. And the guy's like, hope you're right. Other guy's in the bedroom dying right now. You want to go talk to him? It's like, ugh. And then the guy who, Mr. Exposition, Mr. Fanning was like, I really wish you would have brought your wife with you because she's such a good doctor. And I was kind of like, that's good. At least people know.
Okay, so Knox's name is Michael D. Xavier.
Is the actor's name?
Yes.
He did very well.
He did very, very well. He is also in 2 episodes of Gentleman Jack, which I have not seen yet, but which I hear amazing things about. Yeah. So anyway, Michael D. Xavier, good job. Last week we didn't give out the golden pamplemousse.
No, but we can this week. It's okay.
Yeah.
I just realized.
Yeah.
Do it for last week too.
Oh, okay.
at
Can
the
we,
end.
Janine?
Yeah, why not? So Jamie's like,
I feel so empowered because I have my own corners.
No, that's great. Someone's got to be in charge.
Jamie's all like, so who did this to you? Did you recognize anyone? His eyes are a little shifty. He's like kind of
Yes.
looking around like, oh, well,
Jamie was not the slickest double
Yeah.
agent this episode. He gets away with a lot because he's tall.
his
but
talking was really good.
Yes.
His facial expression
Faces.
was a little bit like,
that boy should not play poker.
It
Yeah.
felt a lot like maybe the director was like, more. We need more. And Sam Heughan was like, okay, hold on. Give me, what's my motivation? I'm conflicted. Okay. And then he just was like, look over here. Look over here. Look over here. Oh, I'm lying. I'm not lying. I'm confused. Well, let me try to send you a signal.
Yes,
And like winked like 19. You know, it was just so much.
I mean, in that respect, it was really good. Spoiler, when he's trying
This is the scene with the guys
talk
in the
to
jail.
the guys
Right.
in the jail. He was very shifty-eyed, but I did see him like you know, when you're talking to someone and you're trying to will them to fucking understand what you wish you could say, but you cannot because your mom is right there or whatever.
Or someone like you're in a bar and there's somebody hitting on you and your friend has just shut up and you go, "Oh, I forgot we're supposed to meet Michael."
And he's staring at these dudes.
bar.
And he's like, you haven't seen Marta Fitzgibbons, have you? Like,
So he
relatable.
says, who did this? They take him into the jail. Murtaugh's not there. And Jamie's looking at the dudes like, where's Is Murtaugh here?
Oh, and the dudes we'd seen them before. They were in the Previously On, and he had previously tried to get them to join him
On the settlement. And they were like, we won't do that.
That was me, guys.
We won't do that because you're a royalist. Like, fuck that. So these guys are serious regulators. They won't talk about every time I hear it.
Warren.
They will not give Murtaugh up. There's a whole bunch of like looking at Jamie and telling him he's a dickhead, basically. And then they start getting salty with Knox. And at first it seems just like he does the rest of the time that he's going to take it and be okay with it and follow the rule of law. But then all of a sudden, he just stabs one of the dudes in the stomach.
So, and important.
Oh, and they do the Spartacus thing.
Yeah,
I'm
the
Murtaugh
guy says,
Fitzgibbons.
I am
I'm
Murtaugh Fitzgibbons.
Yeah.
No, it's just the one. Just the one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right, because that's why he does it.
Yeah. So then they're having this really intense back and forth where the guy who's not Murtaugh is insulting Knox.
His name was Evans.
Yeah,
Is that right, Evans?
And you can just see his fucking rage meter rising. And it is so, and you just know something is going to happen. I was really surprised that Jamie didn't step in sooner, to be honest. And then out comes the rapier and whoop, right into his belly.
You're just going to kill this guy right here. Just murdered him.
Like in the stomach. Too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jamie's like, what the fuck, man? And this guy's like, oh, what have I done?
You just executed him without a trial. And then
someone runs in. It's really bad. Someone runs in and is like, what happened here? And Jamie, I actually really hated for doing what he did.
yeah.
Jamie's like, he had to kill him in self-defense. Shifty eyes. Like,
And you can see
the other two Highlanders be like,
who maybe were conflicted before, who maybe did, knowing his relationship to Murtaugh, knowing his background, maybe weren't quite sure what to make of what was, especially with all of the
eyes.
You didn't see him, right? Right? And then you can watch it flash across their faces like, no, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy forever. Absolutely not. He just murdered our friend and he's going to pretend like it was justified somehow. It's upsetting. It's really upsetting.
So Jamie's in a pickle. And then we flash back to Fraser's Ridge, and Bree and Roger are doing a little shooting lesson. Roger's not very good. Bree's very good. There's a hilarious conversation about Tufty the squirrel, which was like a Smokey the Bear, but for Britain back in the 60s. It's very cute. Roger's cute, but he just doesn't feel at home in this time. And he also feels a little emasculated because he knows he can't fight, so Jamie didn't take him, and he doesn't have Jamie's respect, and blah, 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 blah. As Keenan said at one moment, he needs to deal with this himself.
I have a little bone to pick with this scene.
Yeah.
Which is that, like, I am obviously a notorious, inexplicable, specifically, not like pro Frank, but like Frank is complicated stan, right? As opposed to fuck Frank, which I don't understand. Are you not watching the same show I'm watching? They're good. They're characters. Please engage. However, Brianna is a good shot because Frank taught her to shot because Frank found out she was going to travel in time and then taught her to shoot. So I'm a little bit bugged that there was an opportunity to sort of acknowledge just as they did in the previous episode that at some point if Roger was like, you're so good at this, I'm not good at this. She could have said, well, I had years of practice when my dad was teaching me how to shoot, instead of being like, yep, I am good. It's true. It's not like she just picked up a gun for the first time 5 minutes ago. She has many years of practice in Boston, like on shooting ranges and shit. No, get it to Brianna. I feel for you, girl. You're having a rough time. Yes. I'm in your corner, but you could have just been like, well, my dad taught me. So it doesn't come instantly to everybody, and you just keep
need to work
practicing.
at it. Right. You just need to
keep
work at it.
shooting at them
Here,
squirrels.
Let me show you how. And then she does the old like dude trying to show you how to play pool situation where he puts his arm around you and then Roger can't contain his boner. But then all of a sudden there's a family of wild turkeys and shit gets real. And so he tries to kill one and he misses. And Brianna's like, oi, boop, and kills one. And then he's like further emasculated. And I think this is when Keena was like, deal with it.
I mean, really?
If
Come
I can
on, bud.
get it together.
Also, she looks so cute in her little hunting pants.
Yes, she does.
It's a very good
How
costume.
often do you think she gets to wear pants?
I don't know. I mean, Claire wore pants in the Highlands. I have to imagine that in this rough and ready settler world, she gets to wear them more.
More often.
Claire in the mix wears pants quite often when they're in the back country. I wish she wore them a little bit more in the show because I bet they're pretty comfortable.
That is one kind of frustrating thing is the whole like, I don't shoot as good as my lady is more believable on a 18th century man than it is on a Roger. Although, now that I say that, Roger had, from season 3, had some more old-fashioned views on men and women and gender.
Well,
so.
and I think that we are very reasonably projecting that a little bit on the scene because we don't
Maybe.
actually know that what's bothering Roger is that Bree is better than him. I think what bothers him is that, and in the books that's partially true, but I think what bothers him is that he is like a useful, educated, skilled guy, and almost all of his skills are completely valueless here
In this world, yeah.
right? And the things that he needs to be good at that seemingly everybody can do, he can't do.
That's fair.
So I think I do think that there is some of that, but I think the fact that we get that fucking like gender flip on the here, just adjust your elbow, and then he's like, ooh, I can't focus, is a very neat flip on what we normally see in this.
And then after the turkey shit goes down and he's all sad, boop. Bree's like, you want to go back to the future, don't you? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, and he goes, don't you? And she's like, my family's here. And he's like, you are my family. So it's clear that Roger doesn't feel at home here, but Bree does. She's got Claire. She's got Jamie. She's kind of loving it. I don't know. And we don't find out till later, although Claire, I'm sure has mentioned this before, Claire wants them to go back because she knows that the 60s are way safer for people in general, not just from disease, but just living in the backwoods of North Carolina and in colonial America is fucking dangerous. And she's like, get the fuck out. So yeah, Roger doesn't want to be there.
there's a line in that scene that I really like, which is she says, our family is here. And he says, you and Jemmy are my family. James Fraser is my colonel. Ooh, felt that in my soul. Yikes.
All right. And then we cut back to Jamie and old Knox on the road. And he's talking about, this is them in the tavern, right? When he's like kind of shaken up by
This
what
is
he did.
another of those
It's the
reversals.
perfect one.
It's
yeah.
the best one.
Because he seems a little bit shaken up and sad about what he did. Like, I can't believe I did it. I let
I'm a
something
hypocrite. I've become everything I hate.
I've become everything I hate. I can't believe I just did that. You know, and Jamie's actually like looking at him with a little bit of empathy and trying to talk him down. And then what is it that he says that's just like the flip? He's just like,
Well, Jamie
about
says,
taking the guys to getting the guys out to go hang them.
Yeah, at first it starts with.
Yeah, you remember?
Scotty.
I remember.
Yeah. It's, I gave him a soldier's death.
Oh shit! Yeah. That's right.
Which is more than he deserved.
Right. I gave him a soldier's death, which is more than he
And
deserved.
you can just watch
The other
him
two
go
will be
from
hung.
self-recrimination to like, man, I nailed it. And like, yeah, it's
He's so good.
again, Twitter. It's just, it's the fucking
And it's
worst.
just, you're so surprised. It's,
The actor was wonderful.
he's so
really
good at it.
Really good.
And you never know where you are with him. And I wonder if Tryon kind of
Oh, that's interesting.
knew that about this guy and thought, ooh, let's see what happens to Jamie when I put this dude on his tail and like, how is he gonna react? Anyway, interesting.
Which is, I think, part of the reason that it's so interesting is that, and we'll see this a little bit in a regulator scene that comes up later, but I do not think that the show is arguing that believing in things is bad. In fact, the show directly argues against that, right? Like believing in things and having something that's worth fighting for is a recurring theme, including in this episode, right? It's about unquestioning, blind, zealous faith in a system that doesn't fucking care about you. That might be sort of relevant to today. Maybe. That I think it was handled really well because Jamie, you cannot think about would you die for X, Y, and Z without thinking about Culloden, right? Without thinking about all the shit that Jamie went through with Bonnie Prince Charlie, another person who believed
so zealously,
blindly, stupidly in something at the expense of everything else, unquestioningly, and that's really dangerous. But there are things that Jamie believes in that deeply. It's just that he is willing to sort of acknowledge complexity and embrace the messiness and try to figure out like where lines are drawn and when are you willing to cross them. And that's a huge through line in the show. So I think this episode is actually pretty brilliant in that respect.
Got a good principle of check yourself.
Yeah. A little. Like, think about it. So Jamie at this point, I think, realizes right here, oh no, this guy's trouble. He's
A monster, yeah.
I'm never going to be able to talk him into anything else. So now I've got to start modifying how I'm going to change his situation. I got to get those guys out of the hoot nanny. What do you call jail?
Hooskow.
Hooskow. Thank you.
I thought for sure.
I got to get them out of the party.
I got to get him out of the hooskow and into the hoot nanny.
Yeah. Yay. Thank you.
I am going to say that for the rest of my life. We got to get him out of the hooskow and into the hoot nanny. What? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I actually thought that was a saying because it's so bizarre.
It works. It works. I thought for sure this was going to be the return of Jamie, the straight up ruthless, cold murderer, which we all forget about. But Jamie will fucking kill a guy, and not just on the battlefield. He'll be like, "Nope, you got to go."
Yeah, I thought he was going to kill Knox.
I thought for sure when he palmed the twins had sharper eyes than me and and recognized that it was not a knife that he covertly palmed from some blacksmith stump. I think it was on a stump. It was very confusing.
Just the key to the hooskow just hanging out on a stump. That
no,
seems
I
dumb.
thought he palmed a knife.
Oh, so it was maybe more like
He
like
got
a crowbar.
Yeah. But I thought it was a knife, and I thought for sure he was going to be like,
"Hi, Knox.
Sir,
How you doing? Let's have
let's
another
go
beer."
have another pint. But first, I've got this good new whiskey that I fell off a wagon. Come back in this discreet alley with me conveniently.
In this shed.
Let's go. Sorry, time to die. Right?
We really did.
But
think
instead,
that
he just busted the regulator.
out of jail. We cut back to the ridge, and we're having a funeral.
But the regulators were pissed.
We haven't actually gotten them out of jail yet.
Oh, he just
we
palmed
cut
the
back,
shit?
and
Okay,
then
right, let's go.
So we go back to Fraser's Ridge, and we're having the funeral for Ferris. Save Ferris! And everybody's around the grave, and Roger's singing beautifully. No, a hymn. It
Abide
sounds
with
like,
me.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful, and everybody's sad about. And then Claire walks over to Granoli, just kind of like do 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 do. Hey, Marsley. What's up? Do you trust me? And Marsley's like, yeah. Oh, she goes, wait. She goes, Fergus, can you watch the children? I need to talk to Marsley for a minute. Get the kids out of here. Marsley, do you trust me? Follow me. Do. Takes her back to the house.
scene is so
throws
good.
open the curtain, pulls up the thing, dead man's body. Marsley's like, what? Witch. And Claire has to run over and shut her mouth and be like, hold on.
So good. Lauren Lyle is so fucking
so
good
great.
in that scene. It's so funny and weird. And after she goes like, Lord the mercy, whatever the fuck she says when he comes and shuts her, she goes, Claire, do not make me say it. Do not make me say it. Claire's like, what? Was my mother right about you? Are you a witch? I was like, oh my God.
And then Claire tries to break it down for her, like, look, this is how we learn about blah, 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 blah. And
she's
it's
like, who did we bury?
yeah, and she goes, oh, it was
we
just
put rocks
no,
in
it was
there.
just a box of
Roger, they
rocks.
put rocks in the-
And it's like, damn.
I do think Claire's timing was not felicitous.
Not
Like
great.
immediately after the morning, like,
They
hey
just
friend,
buried the box of rocks.
Can I get a minute? Like, so, and then Marsley's like getting over the fact that they just had a funeral for a box of rocks. looking at what did I write down? I think this is my favorite note I took today. Claire brings granola to the gut buffet. And Marcelly's like, kind of, when she gets over the initial shock, is a little bit fascinated.
Like curious. And then Claire flips back the gut pouch, right? And then there's another like, oh my God. Because first it's his face. And then she's like, by the way, would you like to see what a pair of human lungs looks like? Boom!
And then she starts talking Marcelly into becoming her apprentice. Like, you are smart, you are capable, you are compassionate. I've seen you work with animals before. I think you can help me. If you want to learn, please help me. And Marcelly's a little bit, but you can tell she's also like, okay, yeah, but also this is fucking weird, and this is weird. But she's into it, guardedly.
It's the second instance in which a very bright young woman is like, this is fucked. What are you doing? This is incredibly dangerous. But yeah, she still wants to apprentice.
I'm just thinking about the timing of that, though. I think she had no choice to do it that time because there's no refrigeration.
Exactly.
No, this is real short.
Like, dude is open on the table. He's not going to last very long.
You got like two more days.
I was thinking about that. You got 2 days before it's like fish.
Yeah.
You got 3 days and you got to get it.
I don't know. For all we know, somebody is still pulling on the string that's turning the ceiling fans. There's someone is just like holding a large piece of cardboard and fanning a giant block of ice.
And then this is when Jamie frees the guys from jail. And they are understandably very pissed at one, James, Malcolm, Mackenzie, Fraser. Reynolds. And they, what's the shade they throw him? What is it about Murtaugh that they say? I can't remember exactly.
It's something about like no matter who your godfather is, something.
I mean, the base of the scene is it's all about, oh, well, you're willing to do all of this for money. They assume because he approached them about land that he has sold his soul for money, and they have a point. It's more complicated than that. Like way more complicated than that. But Jamie did agree to do the governor's bidding in exchange for an extremely large parcel of land, which hasn't been given out to everyone, as evidenced by the fact that Knox is so jealous of Fraser's Ridge, right? So Jamie did, in fact, say, yes, I will do the king's bidding in exchange for this land when he signed that paper. So they are not wrong. It's just knowing what we know about Jamie's motivations and his goals and like what his heart wants of life, it's more complicated than that. But they are not wrong, and that's I think why that scene is so interesting, and why I think they're setting up a very interesting character arc for Jamie this season. If it really is going to be him trying to walk between two fires. If he's going to be between a rock and a hard place,
thank you.
Or like any of the other million analogies, balance on a razor's edge, like all kinds of things you can say that aren't between two fires. I just think it's a really interesting place to set him up and feeds right into a lot of the shit that's been interesting about Jamie in earlier books, which maybe the show hasn't always captured. It's the most intellectually I've been interested in Jamie as a character in a long time. Was that an experience that y'all had?
Yeah, and maybe I've just forgotten, but I'm kind of having. I mean, you're right. Jamie promised loyalty to the crown in exchange for land.
Yeah,
like he. Was there any other extent? Like, he did it.
Yeah.
He knows what's going to happen with the Revolutionary War, though. So he's, there's been scenes with him and Claire where he's like, well, I'm just going to play this card till I have it, and then I'm going to switch.
And so he can't tell these two regulators. So, guys, here's the sitch.
I'm going to let you know.
Let's talk about time travel first, and then we'll get into the current state of political affairs.
Two people I don't know at all.
Meaning, like, he can't be like, you're right, don't worry, you're going to win.
Yeah, no, he can't.
Yeah. And he also... like the complicating factors are, and the show doesn't address this necessarily quite as well as the book does, but Jamie also feels an intense sense of loyalty to specifically the men who are in Ardsmuir with him, all of whom except for him were indentured in the United States when Ardsmuir prison was closed, including Murtaugh, right? Like they all, in the show at least, they were all shipped overseas. And now we're in this situation. I'm sure it's not all the Ardsmuir men are regulators, but some of them are. where they just haven't been able to get ahead because of the situation they were in. So he feels, and this is something that I think he sent Fergus to do in the show. He sent to look for every man who was in Ardsmuir with him to offer him land specifically so that they could be essentially like a clan together. And that's really important. And it is a complicating factor. But if you want to see it in black and white and you can understand why these people would see this issue that way, then yeah, he absolutely signed his name, swearing an oath to the king in exchange for land.
There's that's very interesting. An interesting class struggle happening that's not being.
Yeah.
Well, at least I haven't seen these episodes.
They talk about it a little bit here, and you had it with Knox throwing that coin at the dude on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So they're bringing it
Well,
up.
but there's like something associated with like being poor, but then the next stage of like being poor because of the policies associated with this.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And the
Well, and
indentured
that is
servitude is like
true
massive.
of basically all Highlanders, right? Because they were dispossessed of so much of their land and property during the Rising. So, yeah, I mean, there's also a whole thing where the governor, I can't remember if this is addressed in the previous season, but the governor knows Jamie is Catholic and you can't be Catholic and own land in this way. So the governor also has the ability to be like,
Oh, I gotta
but
take this
you were
away."
Catholic, so never mind, null and void. Anytime he wants. So Jamie is basically like he can't. Yeah, which is why he has to wait and switch teams at the ideal moment, which is not now. Yeah.
And then we go back to Fraser's Ridge, and this is a really cool shot, and it's reminded me a little bit of the Walking Wool scene, hot pass scene, where we've got a whole bunch of women out in the yard making candles, and you get to see a little bit of the process. But what's really cool is when they pull back for like a mid-range shot, you get to see all the candles hanging on the trees drying, and it's really pretty looking. Mainly, what this scene is here for is to show us that the women of Fraser's Ridge, other than Claire, are all kind of superstitious and don't really like know medicine. And Claire keeps asking people questions. Like one of the women's husband got a burn, and she thought she'd put some honey on it. And Claire was like, you know what? That's actually pretty a good idea. And then another one was like, but then Dr. Blanc, what's his name? Dr. Bill, I'm going to call him Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill was like, that's no good. Take this powder instead. And Claire goes, internally? For a burn, I'm trying not to be too much of an asshole, but she can't help it. And then she realizes that these people are not going to listen to her because she's not Dr. Bill. She's not a man, first of all.
She's a
that they
healer
trust.
and not a physician.
Healer, not a physician. Fucking Harvard-trained surgeon. Just looking at this like, okay. And you can just see the frustration. She's just so mad about it. And then it ends with this hilarious moment where they talk about how this doctor that they're talking about, Dr. Bill, she goes, oh, well, that powder, Claire says, that powder has a thing that makes you vomit. And
It's poison.
It's essentially poison, so maybe he should stop taking it. And one of the women goes, but Dr. Bill was the king's physician. Can you imagine the king's physician trying to poison him? Which exactly is what was happening to George III.
Yeah.
And Claire's just like, eye roll. Like, yes, I can. It's happening right now. And then we cut away from that. So we can see that Claire is experiencing kind of this frustration of not being able to help people as much as she possibly could because there's a certain level that she can't get past with them.
Glass ceiling.
Yes, a little bit of a glass ceiling. And then,
but also she knows things she would have no way of knowing.
right.
So-
Like, witch. She's a witch.
Yeah. So she can't say, actually, no, taking all that shit definitely makes him go insane and then he dies. Like, she can't
They're
say
like,
that.
How do you know? And she's like, I talked to the fairies. And then her idea is to write down some just like hygiene ideas and things you can do to like keep yourself clean and to kind of stay healthy and distribute it as a pamphlet as if it came from that doctor.
Different doctor.
No.
Different doctor.
So in the previous season, Jamie gave Claire like a surgery kit with a microscope, and there's a doctor's journal in it. This becomes important later, which is why I'm clarifying it now. Maybe. We'll see if they do that storyline. But it was a doctor who had taken very detailed notes about all the patients he was seeing and the treatments he was giving out. Sometimes he did things really badly. Most of the time, though, he was pretty good. So Claire feels this sort of almost intimate relationship with this doctor who apparently disappeared. And his name is Dr. Raymond. Raymond?
Wait a minute. It's not Monsieur
Raymond?
Raymond.
Monsieur
No.
Raymond.
Could be.
No, it's not Raymond. It's Rawlings. Sorry,
Okay, Rawlings.
We
So
just
sorry.
got
Although I
very
just got
excited.
really fucking excited.
Although I think there's a point in the books when she does wonder if maybe it could be.
Wow.
It's not. It's not. It's not.
That's still a good
At least
idea.
in the book, it is not.
But we got so excited.
I know, I'm sorry. So this is a doctor who did exist. So she is taking medical advice from the 20th century, putting it into pamphlets and saying this doctor who is missing, I cannot remember if the show addressed that or not, gave this advice. So she is passing it out. It's not from Claire. It's from Dr.
dude.
Rawlings,
Right.
Of her medical journals.
And Bree comes in and sees her copying all this stuff and goes, isn't this a bit like Ottertooth? Do you remember the Native American time traveler who went back and tried to tell everybody, like, hey, the white man's going to kill us all. We got to fight back. And everyone's like, no.
Sick burn.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I don't think it's like that. And we're like, it is. It is like that. Okay, fine. And then Jamie has to gather a militia. He's told that he's going to need more men, so he's got to go back and find more dudes. I can't remember exactly what else happened in that scene. Was that the scene where one of the regulators was like, well, we've got all the farmers and we can turn our plowshares into blades, and like, how many people do you have? And
Yeah,
like, all
it's
that
extremely confrontational.
Right. And then we flash to those guys getting back to the regulator camp. Boop, 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 boop. And there's, they get stopped in the woods and it's like, what's the password?
An American voice says to identify yourself, and what is the code word or something?
And they're like, if it hasn't changed since last time, it's, and I don't know the word, so
Hustle,
it's
hustle,
like,
hustle.
penis. And they're like, oh, you're right, it hasn't changed. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And it's Murtaugh. And we're like, oh,
And
Murtaugh.
he's with a very important character from the books, Herman Husband, who I went, Herman Husband! As soon as I saw him. And we'll be very curious to see how his intersection with Murtaugh changes the story. It's really interesting.
Mr. Husband had a
Terrible
bad
wig.
wig. Bad wig.
Bad wig.
It looks like Hagrid.
He did look a little bit like Hagrid.
Hagrid and a little bit like a guy at a theme park playing a pirate.
Yes.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he is, Herman Husband, he is a Quaker, if memory serves, and sort of a thought leader, and will be an important figure this season, if it's at all like the book. But he is hanging out at this camp, so they're in their regulator's hidey hole.
Yeah, I called it Robin Hood and his band of hairy men. They're all hanging out in the woods, but it's obviously like a setup, like they've got tents and they've got places for all their weapons, and this has been put together for a while. And there's a whole conversation between these two guys that Jamie let out of prison with Murtaugh, like, you're going to have to face the fact that your godson is on this side. And Murtaugh's like, don't you worry about it. I'm fighting for you. It's okay.
Well, and he says, you need to face the fact that your godson is fighting for the king. And he says, no, he stands with his people, not with the king, and so do I, which means I will fight with you because you are my people.
Right.
It was, Duncan LaCroix did a really good job. It was a really, really good scene.
Then we flash back to Claire and all of her anthropology bell jars, tearing up 27 loaves of lovingly handcrafted sourdough bread into little pieces to let it rot. And Mrs. Bug, this is when we hear her, she's just like, what a fucking waste. How many hours did that fucking take me? All right, fine. But Claire's going to try to make penicillin. And
it's a ridiculous idea.
Right.
Here's my penicillin moment. Allison's penicillin corner. This storyline is moved up from the book, but it is straight from the book, and like I said, it's one of my favorites. However, first of all, Claire, out there in the wilderness, watching people starve because they don't have enough food every day. No way does she bake all that bread and waste all of that flour and all of that sugar and water. I mean, it's like they're pulling in water in buckets from the street. No way does she do this. There's always going to be food going to waste. No way does she do this. Second, she only has so many bell jars. Why were there 27 loaves of bread? Like, there's a giant, it was like... It was like the dumpster behind a Panera when they're throwing out the day-old soup bowls.
It was so much bread.
Like it was so much bread. It didn't make any sense. And then she's like ripping up one, and there are 6 bell jars with one big hunk underneath each of them. And well, she's like, I have to find the right strain. And where that's going to come from is it's going to be like a piece of chicken and some broth and some cheese and some this. Like that's how it is in the books. Is she's taking rotting food and putting it all over her surgery. And then Mrs. Bug is like, this is disgusting. There are going to be mice. And there is a ongoing conflict between the two of them because of that. However, none of that is going to require 27 loaves of bread. You could make that bread, give one to everybody in Fraser's Ridge and say, just save me a tiny piece. If you really wanted to, because she doesn't have enough fucking bell jars. What's she going to put whole loaves of bread out?
Well, we heard all the thing about the windows being such a big deal, right? Where are they getting the bell jars? How are they getting them there? Is this Prime Now?
She was leaving them out. In the book, she leaves them out on plates. I don't know why bell jars. I don't.
Because it's fancy looking.
I mean, it does look great.
I can see them time travel.
Amazon went back.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is a powerful man.
What's the Amazon stand-in in Doctor Who? Kerblam?
Kerblam.
It was the Kerblam man.
That's funny. And then we cut to the cabin, and we see the cute fucking baby being so cute, playing with his little fucking early American toys, like a doll made with dirt and a rock with a string on it.
This is a tiny in the books thing. The only like real significant in the books thing I want to talk about is the Marsley thing. So don't let me forget. We'll do that at the end. But a little in the books thing. Roger or somebody whittles Jemmy a little car and gives it to him, and then Bree is like, "What the fuck? We can't give him that. We certainly can't call it a car." And Roger's like, we'll call it a vroom. So then Jemmy has this toy that's a car, but it's just like a thing on wheels, and they call it a vroom because they can't call it a car.
Bad idea.
Silly
That's cut from the same fucking cloth as the penicillin. Come on now.
Slightly better.
Yeah,
It's slightly
it's
better
cute.
because they don't know. They aren't like, that's from the future. No. They're just like, what a weird toy.
This thing.
So it's a vroom.
So, and then Roger's out there again singing. So he gets a lot of singing in this episode. He's got his guitar out there and he's singing Jeremiah was a Bullfrog. It's very cute.
It was so cute.
Brianna comes around the corner and is like, I love that song. She's got a big basket, presumably of laundry, since during that time everyone was doing laundry at all times. And she's like, take this in. I'm going to play with him. So Roger takes the basket to take into the cabin, and he knocks off a booklet or whatever you call it, portfolio of her sketches. And he sees a really cute sketch of Jimmy, and he's all like, oh, look how cute. And then he picks it up, and there's a very dark and terrible sketch of Stephen Bonnet. And he's like, what? And then he starts moving them one aside, and they're all like progressively darker and more tortured, terrible charcoal, like really like she's working something out in her mind. And he's just like, what the fuck? And then you hear Brianna go, come on out here, Roger, come on out here. He's my kid, you get fast. And he's like, oh my God. And he tries to put everything back together and walks out. And she's like, he's walking. But as somebody on our live cast said, that was a very generous interpretation.
I will say she does say you missed it, but look, he's walking. So presumably.
And she says, our son is walking.
Yeah.
Our son. And he's very
little stunt baby. Like it took a couple of steps, and then Brianna took his hands, and then they walk. But it's a good little Sophie Skelton scene. She is so happy.
And
like,
Roger
ecstatic.
looks out, and he's just had this moment of knowing that she's going through this psychological torment, and then he sees her being so happy, and he has like a little proud moment where he kind of tears up, and it's very sweet. But now maybe Roger has a little bit more idea of where her brain is at. And then all of a sudden, in the most abrupt jump cut of all time, we jump straight into the fucking lady fight club in Wilmington.
What the fuck?
They are wailing on each other. These two women are in a ring of men.
And it's not an establishing shot. It's like from Roger looking worried at his beaming
then,
wife
but also
to
great.
lady throwing a punch.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so it's basically some kind of betting parlor where guys watch gals beat the shit out of each other. Boring. And we see a couple of the guys who have been at Jacosta's house in the past, some of the rich guys. And one of them,
and I screamed in unison, "Billy Boy!"
In unison, both in words and time and pitch, exactly like that. Do it one more time.
Billy Boy!
It was delightful.
We were very excited, but then we got very sad right after.
yeah, and it wasn't, what's his name, the guy that thought he was going to marry Jocasta. Who's the guy with the dark hair that's like kind of running the scene, doing the exposition in that scene?
Don't remember.
Whatever.
Some rich North Carolinian.
Rich dude goes, here, meet my associate. Camera pans over. Guess who it is? Stephen Bonnet.
Fuck that.
Yep.
Here's
Bonnet's in
the
town.
only good thing I will ever say about Stephen Bonnet.
Yeah.
His costume in this episode is absolutely baller.
It's great.
He's the fucking worst. What a great costume.
Yeah.
So they're all watching this fight and talking about it, and the rich guy is like, hey, he helps me move shit where I don't have to pay taxes. Same old, same old. And then the other guy's like, hey, maybe I'll use you too. He's discreet. No, he's discreet. And then one of the gals wins the fight, and you see this guy who keeps looking over at Stephen Bonnet like, what the fuck is going on? And then he accuses him of cheating. He's like, you knew her, and she took a fall, and I'd rather win with honor than with disgrace or whatever. And he
I'd
throws
rather
his money
lose with honor
than win with disgrace. And he said, damn your eyes. That's very important. Stephen Bonnet does not like win, challenges him to a fight, takes him in, slices his Achilles tendon, beats the shit out of him, and then cuts his eyes open. Does that seem like maybe it was a little bit too violent of a reaction? Yes. Does
Yes,
this person,
Sophie,
yes.
yes.
Does this person seem imbalanced? Yes. And he goes, what was it? Somebody said, you should have just killed him and put him out of his misery. And he goes,
Why not just kill him
why not
outright?
just kill him? Right. Why not just kill him outright? And he goes, I have to set an example. I'm a father now. Which means
Chilling.
we know he's going to go
Chilled
try to
my
find
blood.
Brianna. And
It was not enjoyable, but a pretty
Good moment.
good piece of writing. Also, another really smart thing is that, of course, Bonnet wouldn't know this, but now that this is something that happened in front of Billy Boyd, it is likely
Jocasta
to get
knows.
back to Jocasta.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't wait to see how Jocasta, where that storyline is going to go and how much is she going to find out
Yeah.
about, not just about Bonnet himself as a person, but also about Bonnet and Brianna.
Yeah.
Because we know that it's Jocasta's job to know everything.
Yes.
So we'll see. So that was the end of the episode. On the inside the episode, it was pretty standard, except they said between two fires like 20 times, and I
so
wanted to
many
kill
times.
myself.
And they looked so proud of
They're-
I know.
So
and
proud.
It was bad. But I would say this was a pretty good episode. It was very like pedal to the metal from the very beginning. It didn't really slow down.
It felt very season 2 to me, like very
yes.
season 2, circa we're
Political
trying-
intrigue.
Yeah.
Lots of violence or like
Some sort of genuinely shocking or surprising things.
right, fast scenes, shocking moments. I think it was pretty good.
And even a little, we kick and punch and punch and kick and then we kick and then we punch and then we do this and the other thing.
Yep.
Like a little of that.
Yep. All right, so I think that's it for this episode. Do you have scales? Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the coitus scale. On a scale
Ken Burns
from
baseball.
Ken Burns baseball to what would be appropriate? Like, oh God, some salacious ladies pillow fighting nonsense.
Oh, like a Russ Myers film?
Was that Jennifer Garner one where she gets all grown up?
13 going on 13.
No,
That's
not
hilarious.
sexy enough, man.
That's not sexy.
No.
Oh, but this wasn't sexy either.
But what I'm saying is, it's the doing it scale. So
Okay.
the point is not to be the point is to be outlandish on the ends of the scale.
I know what my answer is.
So some like sexy piece of pornography, right?
Okay.
Like ladies hitting each other, like pillow
Showgirls.
I don't know.
Showgirls.
All right. My answer to this is My Dinner with Andre. Because it was not sexual at all.
Scotty, do you have somewhere doing it wise on the scale?
The Madness of King George.
That's good.
But we do know, we don't see it a lot in that film, but we do know that he and his wife threw down many times because they had a lot of kids.
They did, and they suggest how dissolute George IV was, but it's really not about doing it.
Right. You're right. Okay.
All right. The costume scale. Oh, Sophie.
Did I do okay, Sophie?
On the low end, let's say a storefront production of 12 Angry Men where the concept is that everybody is wearing all black, but then they have like comedian masks that they borrowed from their college university professors.
God damn it. Specific.
On the high end, The Madness of King George.
Those costumes were good.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen Bonnet's costume was fire. Keenan
It really
is right.
was great. It was like you could just tell that it
Vaguely
cost a lot of
devil-like.
money, and he does not know how to spend money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it looked
Yeah,
like
his
a
pants
new
were satin.
money.
Impractical.
Yeah,
Right.
new money outfit. It was new money and no taste.
Exactly.
It was great
Nouveau
costume.
riche.
Great costume.
So that one was good. Fucking Bree's hunting breeches were good.
Also, her like laundry dress was pretty good. I love Claire's fucking butcher's
That apron
vest. Yeah.
with the big open sleeves that buttons in the back. That thing is really cool.
Very
so I'm
cool.
going to say there's some cool shit in here.
Yep. And Jamie's wig remains excellent.
Way better than in the
great wig.
past. So I'm going to have to be somewhere between that storefront production and the Madness of King George. I'm going to go with something with pretty good costumes, but not like crazy good costumes. I don't know, but kind of any movie from the 60s or 50s that wasn't costumed by Edith Head. Yeah. So
like Butch Cassidy.
there you go. It's good.
Amadeus.
No, Amadeus
Amadeus is
incredible.
too high.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about you,
Amadeus is
Scotty?
closer to the Madness of King George.
I mean, I think. It might be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
It's
or,
good, but it's not like
Yeah, I almost was wanting to think of like another TV show.
Chips.
Yeah.
That's very specific because everybody wears the same costume. So it's one good costume, but everybody wears it.
Okay.
That's good.
Cool.
All right.
All right. And then how often you have to get up to get a beer?
I did not.
Yeah.
So-
It was it moved really fast.
I'm going to say Fast and Furious.
Which one though?
Hobbs and Shaw. I know that that's not necessarily Fast and Furious, but it's of.
It's from the Fast and Furious cinematic universe.
Yeah.
That's fine. What about you, Scotty?
It's not as suspenseful as like 1917, where like you can, it's not like you can't breathe. But you definitely don't get up to get a beer. You definitely don't check your phone. So, maybe Stranger Things. That's a decent.
Okay. Stranger Things.
Yeah, where like
Sex education was good.
I wasn't beside myself, but I was into it.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then last, who is your pick for first this week for the Golden Pamplemousse, the award that we give to the best performance of the episode?
Hamilton Knox. Whoever that guy was that you had his name earlier. That guy blew it out of the water.
Dexter,
Evan something, wasn't it?
Michael D. Xavier.
Yeah,
None
Michael.
of
Well,
us
Michael
got
D.
guys.
Hall.
That was
Like, yeah,
really good.
So,
Really killing it.
fucking Hamilton Knox. You win the Golden Pamplemousse for episode 2 in
Yeah.
Julie's opinion.
Same for you, Scotty?
I can't tell if I'm biased because every time I see Marsley, she's perfection. And I felt that way, like we only got a glimpse of her in the premiere in the Limerick bit. And this could just be, I miss Marsley and Fergus so much and I want them to have more to do, that every time I see them, I might be overexcited to see them and like weight their work too highly.
No, I mean that scene in the surgery is
It's
one of
really
the best
good.
scenes
I really
it
like
was
it.
one of the best scenes.
Very,
in the show.
very good.
And that's meatier than the Limerick bit. So yeah, I might be Marsley. Laura
Laura
Lyle.
Lyle.
Yeah.
I like both of those choices, so I'm gonna give like a half vote to each of them, and that way we can have a tie. Because I think
right.
it was really like one really, really great scene, and then several very good scenes. I think that it's fair to have that be about even.
right.
What about last week? Because we didn't do last week.
I might have to give it to Sam Hewen for last week
Yeah.
because of the whole thing with giving his daughter away, the whole like having to deal with Governor Tryon shit, and then the final scene with Murtaugh.
Final Scene with Murtaugh was good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Sam Hewen for the premiere.
Same for you, Scotty. It is for me too. So that's a universal nod.
Agreed.
Remember when Sam never used to get our
He
TGPs?
just got one. He just got a TGP.
Well, he's gotten several, but it's nice that like Premiere starting very strong, Mr. Hewen. Good job.
Good job, bud.
Great. Well, we will do a little in the books, just a little one.
Yay.
After we say thank you to some folks, you can find. I'm just gonna pause for a second and grab my computer. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/podlandercast. You can find us on Twitter at podlandercast. You can find us on Patreon, where you can back and join our Slack channel and also have access to some bonus episodes. You get episodes early, but also bonus episodes, including our new series, Janine's Corner, the Janine Experience.
Give the people what they want. Get more of me.
Among some other things, live streams, all kinds of stuff, and most importantly, our Slack channel, which is just the most wonderful place on the internet, which Julie and I have basically nothing to do with. We're in there. We're just not responsible for it being so wonderful. It's all the people who are in it who make it so wonderful. It's the best. So you can find that at patreon.com/podlanderdrunkcast, where you can pledge as little as $1 a month, and I think $3 is where you can get in the Slack. We want to thank all of our patrons. This show would not be possible without your support, so thank you so much. We especially want to thank the following: Ashlyn Berger, Zena Perez, Kayla Reagan, Misty O. Jeppy, Katie Kirschner, Dr. J, Jen Lander Drunklin, Amanda Newton, Trish McCrary, Chrissy Shively, Emma Lofald, please, Emma, tell me if I'm saying your name wrong, Samantha Smith, Amanda Sims, Whitney Harrington, Rachel Townsend, Steph Peterson, Maria, Catherine Marshall Eastman, Chantel Salters, Mary the Falling Statue, Kara Lucchino, Crystal Nanavati, Viv Pickles, Mary Lumpkin, Jenna Polkowski, Ann Gibson, Ruth McCormick, Heather Moore, Kara Marlowe, and Kiki the Wise.
Don't forget Amanda Sims.
And
Amanda
Amanda
Smizazins. That one's just for you, Amanda.
And Kiki the Wise, who is our unofficial Slack den mother. And if you do join our Slack, we'll be among the first to greet you and then teach you how to use a GIF, because it is a little bit confusing. And that's it. We're going to do our In the Books. But if you don't want to know anything about what happens in the books, you can jump off now, and we will be back next week with whatever the fuck it's called, probably The Hangover. Or maybe Baskets.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, welcome to In the Books, when we talk about stuff that's in the books. There's a lot of stuff that's in the books, right? Herman Husband, but you'll find out more about him. Some other characters, the tarring and feathering is from the books. The biggest departure from the books, though, other than the ongoing Murtaugh presence, is that Marsley is not the person that Claire begins training as her apprentice. It's a woman who lives on the ridge, the daughter of a man from Ardsmuir whose name is Tom Christie, who is a Presbyterian. So he and Jamie have sort of always butted heads. But he comes and sets up on the ridge, just like a bunch of the other Ardsmuir men. And Malva sort of ends up looking at Claire as a mother figure and seems very adept at it, and they make friends, and it becomes extremely complicated in a way I'm not going to talk about, just in case they find a different way to introduce her, because it's a big storyline and sort of an ongoing mystery. But Malva Christie is at first a figure who appeals to Claire much in the way that Marsley does here, but without all of the like fun, weird complexity. And then it gets progressively thornier. So, and in a way, some of it's a little bit like not an awesome trope. But some of it is pretty interesting. So I'm curious to see whether or not Tom Christie ends up on the ridge at all. If he does, he has 2 kids, Malva and Alan, and they're both important to the story. So, so this, at the moment at least, removes Malva from the story, and it could just be that they're going to cut those storylines. It could also be that they will only be introduced next season, because a lot of it happens in the next book. So that is also possible. The thing that I really like about Marsley is, stepping into this role, is we see, and they do a good job of this in the show, in the ship season, you see a lot of Marsley and Claire bonding, even though Marsley sort of hates her, feel like she should hate her, and then it sort of she gets worn down, and then it gets more and more complicated. That relationship becomes incredibly close, to the point that I think one of Fergus and Marsley's kids, her middle name is Claire, modified something, despite knowing that her mom is going to shit a brick about it. Or maybe she's asked to be the godmother. Something. It's something that her mom is just going to hate. Yeah, and that relationship they become very, very, very close. So this feels like a way to sort of reflect the work they've already done in that relationship and also to kind of accelerate the intensity of it, which I think is great. I'm a very big fan of the Marsley Claire friendship, like surrogate mother-daughter thing. And I'm really glad that she is getting more to do this season. And God, Lauren Lyle was so
She's
good.
so good. She's funny. She's
her.
smart.
So
she's
good.
fast. She's really fucking.
And she really does look like what's her face, like Larry. Like she really does. It's great casting. They hit the jackpot. She and Damn Boy are very
Damn boy.
they're very good together. I also love that Claire was like, "Hey Fergus, can you watch your kids?"
Yeah, and he was like,
"Yeah, milady, yeah, oui, this is my job, no." I do not have outdated perspectives on the role of mothers versus fathers. I am, how you say, woke, which is good because it's not actually always true of Book Fergus. So I was really relieved to see that. Anyway, yay, that's in the books.
All right, cool.
Malva
He's
Christie,
come so far from 2 ladies, 1 moi.
two girls, one moi. It's the best. All right, bye.
bye.